Hello, everyone. Today we're doing lesson 24. I do not perceive my own best interest, and as with yesterday, there is no text. So let's begin. In no situation that arises do you realize the outcome that would make you happy. Therefore, you have no guide to appropriate action and no way of judging the result. What you do is determined by your perception of the situation, and that perception is wrong. It is inevitable then that you will not serve your own best interests. Yet they are your only goal in any situation which is correctly perceived. Otherwise, you will not recognize what they are.
Oh, I'm guessing you want me to read the next paragraph.
Yes.
If you realize that you do not perceive your own best interests, you could be taught what they are. But in the presence of your conviction that you do know what they are, you cannot learn. The idea for today is a step towards opening your mind so that learning can begin.
So, what these two paragraphs are talking about, folks, is recognizing that everything we think we know and believe in has been taught to us by somebody else, and it was their judgments that we've been taught. And in that regard, we take what we've learned in the past and we project it on our future. We project it on our present and create the future in that way. And in everything, we always seem to think we know what's best for us and for everyone around us. Oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Oh, don't do that. Oh, no, don't do that. That's bad. That's wrong. It's things of that nature that we are learning to undo the thinking of. We don't know what's right and best for ourselves, and we cannot know what's right and best for anyone else. And that is something that he is trying to get us to see here in these two paragraphs, is that we do not know. When we can accept that, then we'll be willing enough to accept his corrections.
For me, it came to an understanding that all things are for our benefits, for our benefit. And what that means is whatever is going on is for my best interest.
Exactly.
And when I come to that understanding, it has me realize that nothing has ever gone wrong. And that's what this lesson is actually teaching us, that we think that we know what's best for us, but in truth, nothing has gone wrong.
A prime example of that would be the things that I grew up believing about myself, that I deserve to be used and abused. And being told that I was damaged goods after being raped or molested. And when I wanted to talk about those things, having it beat out of me to not talk about it because nobody wants to hear about it. It doesn't need to be talked about. And when I was believing in those things that they were trying to tell me was true, I would sit there feeling deep, deep in my core that this doesn't feel right. But the only way I could stop getting hit was to conform to their beliefs and dictates. And it made me want to believe in that moment when they stopped hitting me, well, it must be true. They must be right. They must know what's best for me. And those kinds of beliefs are what I learned to believe defined me. And it was recognizing that they did not know what was best for me, just as I don't know what's best for me. And when I would go out there into the world, I would believe that I knew what was best for me based on how I was treated by my family. If that's how they showed me their love, then that must be what I should be looking for. Because I thought that was best.
And so you had a preconception of how you think that you should be treated and how you think that the outcome of any situation should occur.
Exactly.
And then when things don't occur the way you think they should, then you feel that something has gone wrong.
Exactly. And these are the things that we are learning to let go of. These core beliefs that we've done something wrong. We deserve what we are receiving. And that we're asking for that type of treatment. Because in truth, none of us are. We're just being told we are. And we believe it when we're being told that. And as I was saying yesterday, it's also recognizing that they're projecting out what they believe about themselves in those moments. Let's move on. Paragraph 3. The exercises for today require much more honesty than you are accustomed to using. A few subjects, honestly and carefully considered in each of the 5 practice periods which should be undertaken today, will be more helpful than a more cursory examination of a large number. 2 minutes are suggested for each of the mind-searching periods which the exercises involve.
The practice periods should begin with repeating today's idea, followed by searching the mind with closed eyes for unresolved situations about which you are currently concerned. The emphasis should be on uncovering the outcome you want. You will quickly realize that you have a number of goals in mind as part of the desired outcome, and also that these goals are on different levels and often conflict. What's coming up for me on this one is, on these recordings that we're doing right here with the cameras and the microphones, and how, I think I know what I want for a camera, yet somehow I don't seem to have the funds to buy what I think I want and need. And so I have this distress, this concern that I'm not able to get the outcome that I want and have the quality of the videos and the quality of the audios that I want. Yet I'm learning day by day that because of the equipment that I have, I'm learning how to do things that I wouldn't necessarily have learned otherwise. I'm learning how to synchronize audio, synchronize video, how to fix video and audio in post-production. And so if I had, perfect high-end equipment, I might not learn how to do that stuff. And so this is a step-by-step process, a learning process of doing these videos. And I can simply accept what is rather than getting distressed that I don't have the money to buy better equipment.
True. You are starting to see that there's benefit to all these issues and problems that you keep running into. And whereas when I look at the finished product of what we record here before any editing is done, I'm like, it sounds good to me. It looks good to me. It's acceptable. You can hear what I'm saying. It's clear. You can see me. You can see Alex. Yet there's more that goes into it than that. He has found for himself, he's very much a perfectionist, folks. He likes to have everything be perfect. And in a lot of ways, that is his artistic endeavor is to be perfect in his artistry. Yet, when he finds these things coming up for him, he becomes frustrated not only with the equipment, but with himself for not being able to do better with it. And so he's learning to accept the limitations that are being placed on himself at this time. To recognize that they are of benefit to him in teaching him things he wouldn't otherwise learn.
Exactly.
And he's having to learn to stop being so hard on himself and so judgmental about himself and the equipment, in learning to accept what it is that they are capable of and working within those parameters to get something that is better than average. And that is what he's learning to do, is to make do with what he has. That he doesn't need to go out there spending thousands of dollars on the latest and greatest in this exact moment. It's not needed, it's not necessary. Everything that we need is given to us when we need it. If we don't have it in this moment, then we don't need it. It's that simple. To keep striving and stressing that, oh, I need that item to make this work so much better, is devaluing what you are capable of doing in this moment.
That makes sense.
Recognize your value as you are. Let go of the expectations.
You know, for me, it seems like the human experience is about making things better. And I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to strive for things to be better in our lives, things to be easier.
Yes, yet it's the look at what your reasoning is behind it. What is it that you're valuing that's making you strive for that thing to be better? Is it for monetary gain? Is it for self-indulgence? Is it for egoistic beliefs? Look at your intent and the purpose you are using it for. Because if you don't do that, you may find that what you are striving for isn't what you're truly wanting for yourself or for anybody else. That you're coming from it, or coming to it from a egoic way of thinking, an egoic perspective. It's not your right-minded thinking.
I think I follow what you mean when you say coming to it from an egoic perspective. For example, if I wanted my videos to be better because I wanted to make some sort of impression on somebody else, to impress someone else, then I'm not doing it, I'm doing it for an egoic reason. And so in that sense, making things better would be an egoic reason of making things better.
Yet in this situation, I recognize that for Alex, it's not because he's trying to impress anybody else. He is doing it for the sole purpose of learning and bettering his understanding of the process and the equipment that he's working with. For him, everything is about growing and expanding his understanding and his knowledge. Because when Alex works with things, especially mechanical things, electronics, whether it's a car engine, a motorcycle, driving a vehicle, whatever, he has learned to take that item and make it an extension of his physical being, so that when he moves, it's one with him as he moves with it. He loses the barrier of himself and it.
That's absolutely right.
And even with things like these cameras or a computer, it is an extension of him. And he likes for those things to flow with him and not for him to struggle and fight to get it to do the movements that he's wanting it to do.
That's right.
So it's a very fluid thing for him. So when he's doing this, he is expanding his understanding and in a lot of ways becoming one with the material he's using.
Correct.
He's breaking down those barriers of separation.
Yes.
On the most elemental levels. It's the same thing I do when I'm cooking or singing. I let go of any separation. When I'm cooking, I become one with the knives I'm using, the spatulas, the spoons, the ladles. I become one with the pots and the pans and the foods that I'm cooking, the seasonings and how they will incorporate. I can smell, I can sense, I can feel within me what is mixing properly, what is not. And it's not just a visual. There's an energy to it. It's a dance. And when I'm singing, I feel the music in here. And when I take it in and I express the words of the song, I am singing straight from my heart the emotion that the author of the music, the person that wrote the music, was putting into it as he was writing it or she was writing it. Their emotional being that they put forth into that piece. As any artist will tell you, anytime they're creating something, they put every ounce of their being into that piece as they are doing it. They put all their thoughts, love, hatred, emotion, everything they are into it. They express everything they are thinking, seeing, and feeling in that moment as they are making that brushstroke, sanding with that laze, or any of those things. And in that way, it's recognizing when we are doing things, we are extending from ourselves. Even an author writing a book, when they are writing out those characters, they are taking from their own thoughts and experiences to express what's being said. Now, the really good authors are the ones where they can pull you in so deeply that you can see, think, feel, smell what you're reading about. You are brought right into that place, that time, that situation to understand all of the things happening around you. It's like you're living it in that moment because they are able to convey that depth of understanding of what it is they are stating. When they are talking about the feast being laden before them and the succulent smell of the herbs rising from the roasted beef as the juices dribble from the meat, pooling beneath the slab.
Now you're just making me hungry.
But in that sense, as you're watching and you're hearing her say how the steam is wafting up and just coming up into the nostrils, having each of the hairs and capillaries just tingle as it touches each tendril. And in that sense of understanding how the body is physically reacting to that smell wafting up through your nostrils, to pull you in that deeply, to see it, feel it, sense it, and then even taste that meat just by smelling it. That is the kind of author that is truly in touch with their inner self and are able to express it in such a depth that they pull you in to experience what they're experiencing.
You know, really, in a lot of ways, that's what life is all about. Life here on Earth in the third dimension, in as a physical expression of ourselves and our bodies, and to be able to take in our environment, whether it be food or smelling a rose, or looking up at the sky and really appreciating where we are in the moment. and not get so wrapped up in our plans of, what's going on tomorrow, or are stressing about being late. And that's what happens with a lot of people. And I think that, when people use the term being asleep is really not being aware of what's happening right here, right now.
Exactly. You're constantly looking at the past or looking at the future, stressing and worrying about both. Oh my God, I didn't get that done yesterday, and I'm not going to be able to get it done tomorrow, and I can't get it done today. And so you're stressing on these things, which, if you stopped and truly looked at it, everything is synchronistic and it's happening for your benefit. Yet you're judging it to be other than that. You're judging it to be something that has gone wrong.
Right. Absolutely.
You're not allowing and accepting flow. You're putting up walls and barriers with what you think is or isn't, what you think should or shouldn't. This is why this whole lesson is telling us we cannot perceive our own best interests. We put up walls and block ourselves with what we think and believe, how we think everything should be, based off of our past experiences and our judgments we've been taught.
Another good example of that is when I have an appointment to go do a service call to do computers or set up a computer. Often those appointments are set up in 2-hour windows. And just the other day, this was a 3-hour window between 9 and noon. And even though I had a 3-hour window, and this is pretty common for me, that I don't want to get there at the end of that window. And somehow I think that if I get there at noon, that something will have gone wrong. And it seems like whenever I do leave, I still have this feeling like, oh, I may not be there in time, and something may go wrong, and someone may be upset if I'm not there earlier. And, it's about accepting exactly where we are, when we are, and as we are, and being okay with that, and not having to drive faster down the road because we think we're running late when we think we need to be early. Again, that's a feeling that something has gone wrong. And I have to contend with that every single day. It's getting less and less as I go on doing this course and doing these lessons. But that's why this is a circular process. Very few people can do A Course in Miracles 1 year and be done with it. It takes repetition to undo the veils of illusion and belief that we have been taught to believe that something is always going wrong.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Most folks will not be able to get it after doing the course for that first year. For me, as I've shared before, a lot of my stuff that I started learning started like 11, 12 years ago when I had a motorcycle accident. And I found myself bedridden. And that was before I ever learned of A Course in Miracles. And let me tell you, at that point in time, I had reached my bottom, as I had stated before, and I was going to kill myself. I was looking for ways to kill myself because I was done. I was in that much pain and misery. My life was falling apart. My body was falling apart. And I started a process back then of going to Holy Spirit. When I sat in my kitchen in a wheelchair, unable to open a medicine bottle, unable to stand up and get myself a drink of water or something to eat, having no strength, and just wanting to die. And I screamed at the top of my lungs at a God I hated with all of my being. because I had believed that he was the one that was punishing me with all the rapes, molestations, beatings, and everything else in my life. And that this here was just one more punishment, and I was done being punished. And when I screamed out at God that day, I was telling him that I'm done with this bullshit. Either you show me how the hell to get out of this bullshit I'm in without wading through any bullshit, or I was going to check out. I was taking 14 pills 4 times a day. I had been told that I had high blood pressure, diabetes, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which are 2 different forms of cancer, folks. Womanly cancer in the reproductive organs and whatnot. And a whole bunch of other shit. A hiatal hernia with acid reflux, ulcers, all kinds of stuff. And I was continuously bleeding for over a year. My relationship with my husband was falling apart. I had somebody else in there taking care of my family and my house and taking care of my physical body because I couldn't do it. I was at my end. And let me tell you, I had to hand it all over. And that was before I ever found this course. When I found this course and I had started doing it, I could feel that presence of Holy Spirit in me because I had already been hearing him and listening to him. Because that day when I screamed out, I heard a voice that day tell me to pay attention to everything I was taking into me, into my body. Not just of the pills and the foods that I was eating, but also of what I was listening to and hearing from the people around me, including the doctors. And when I stopped listening to my family and friends and listening to those doctors and started listening only to that voice, my body started to heal itself in many ways. And I stopped believing that I knew best and that they knew best. They didn't. I had to listen to something else within me, a higher voice. And in this lesson, that's what it's telling us. Stop thinking you know what's right and best. And stop believing to and listening to all those folks around you. They don't know what's best. Not for you and not for themselves. Not even your doctors. That's what I had to recognize. Because anytime I've said anything was wrong, their only thought was, here, have another pill. That's how I got up to 14 pills, folks.
14 pills and nearly 300 pounds?
Yeah, 275 pounds. I weigh 155 now. I was 275 pounds with all of that. I was wearing a size 48 in bras, a 48 like F, and a 28 in dress size. And jeans, size 44.
Well, I was up above 300 pounds myself, too. So
Yeah.
we were both overweight.
We were majorly overweight. And let me tell you, now, like I said, I'm 155. I'm down to a 38 triple D and a size 12. And I'm still losing weight, folks. You know, years ago, before I had my son and so forth, before my husband and I had met, I was wearing like a 6 or a 7. I was like 115, 120 pounds at 5 feet tall. And still very busty, even then. I mean, I've been like this since I was about 12, 13. To give you an idea of what I've dealt with all my life. I was never shaped like a little girl. 9 years of age, I was already in a B to C cup. So that gives you an idea of how I was perceived. I didn't have a little girl body. I've always had more curves than most. I've got that true hourglass shape that I guess you could call it. And I learned for a long time to wear clothes that hung on me like a sack to hide my body. Basically, it was as if I was wearing a burqa. When Alex and I first met, I wore clothes that hid my body. And believe me, he was very surprised at my body when he and I became intimate. But
we won't go there.
No.
We're going to focus on
the
lesson.
But it's the fact that I had shame and guilt about the way my body was shaped because of the things that I was told as a child, that I should be shamed, I should feel guilt, and I should be afraid of all of those things. And it was because they were thinking that they knew what was best for me because I wasn't shaped like a little girl. They were figuring if they put fear into me and told me that I was wrong and that I was bad in these ways, that it would keep me from, what's the word I'm looking for? Exploring myself, learning who I am. Those were the understandings that I was given, is that it was their way of controlling me.
Well, I mean, that's very similar to the mother who tells the son, don't masturbate or you'll go blind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just another form of control, fear, kind of thing.
Yeah. You know, and it was those kinds of things that we are being shown. That these folks think they know what's best for us, and we seem to think that we know what's best for us, or we know what's best for somebody else.
And then we hand those judgments down to
Our children.
And they hand those judgments down to their children,
Mm-hmm.
and the cycle goes on.
Yeah, it just keeps getting repeated.
And this is what this course is about. This is about undoing those cycles.
Yeah, breaking those patterns. Breaking that circular pattern going around and around. Cutting it.
By looking at everything with the light of truth.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to 5. In applying the idea for today, name each situation that occurs to you, and then enumerate carefully as many goals as possible that you would like to be met in its resolution. The form of each application should be roughly as follows. In the situation involving blank, I would like blank to happen and blank to happen, and so on. Try to cover as many different kinds of outcomes as may honestly occur to you, even if some of them do not appear to be directly related to the situation, or even to be inherent in it at all. And this is what I've been talking about, folks. No matter what it is, whatever comes up, whatever thoughts, feelings, any of it, whatever emotions come up, hand them over to Holy Spirit instantly, right in that moment. Say, okay, it came up, here it is. What is it? It does not matter if you think it has anything to do with this or that. It does not matter if you believe it's conducive to what it is you're trying to get to. If it's coming up, hand it over. No matter what. Hand it over. Do not hold on to it, because I guarantee you that is probably the thing that is the key to holding you in place. That one little item you keep trying to hold on to. Hand all of it over. Keep nothing of it for yourself. Let him hand back to you what it is that is true.
And the truth is that nothing has ever gone wrong.
Exactly.
And the truth is where we are right here, right now, is exactly where we are supposed to be, right here, right now. And whenever we think that something shouldn't be the way it is, we're thinking something has gone wrong.
Exactly.
We're thinking we know better than God.
Exactly. You know, he plays that game, connect the dots with me, and every time I connect my experience, what I was thinking at that time, what I was wanting at that time in my heart and mind, what I was asking for, as that child when I experienced it, and each time I go and I look, I connect these dots, you know, with my grandmother. As she was holding my infant brother, cuddling him, loving on him. I, as a child, wanted the same. So I, lifted my arms up, asking to be picked up and loved and cuddled as much as he was being. Instead of picking me up and loving me and cuddling me as I was being asked.
As you were asking for.
Yeah, as I was asking for. She decided to kick me across the room instead, because she didn't want me touching her or near her, because she did not love me. She actively disliked me. So it was those kinds of things that I am being told to look at, to recognize that in those instances I was believing that I was unworthy of love. I was unworthy of affection. And I was also learning in that moment, having it hardwired into me, that to ask for any kind of affection or love was to ask for physical pain and suffering, was to ask to be physically abused, mentally abused, and emotionally abused. Those were things that I was taught in that instance to believe were true.
And that you were bad.
Oh,
that there was something wrong with you.
Yes, that I was bad, and that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't worthy of love.
Right.
And that's why I was being treated that way, that the only thing I was here for was to be used and abused. Those are the things that we are being shown that we have to let go of.
You know, it's funny, a memory just came to me that I had just about forgotten about when I was a child, around the age of 9. My parents divorced, and my dad, I think later on he did get married. I'm not sure if he ever married her, but basically I had a stepmom, and she had a son who was about the same age as me. And whatever it was that was going on, we have a kitty emergency. So, as I was saying, whatever it is that was going on, it was always me who was bad and him who was good. And I started to believe that there really was something wrong with me, that that I deserved the treatment that I was being given by my new stepmom, and that her son was always good and I was always bad. So interesting that brought up that memory. So it's almost the exact same thing, that there's something wrong with me. Let me go on to the next paragraph. If these exercises are done properly, you will quickly recognize that you are making a large number of demands of the situation which have nothing to do with it. You will also recognize that many of your goals are contradictory, that you have no unified outcome in mind, and that you must experience disappointment in connection with some of your goals, however the situation turns out.
And that goes right back to what we were talking about. How in everything we get these contradictions coming from people with their judgments and opinions, and we believe that they know what's right, and yet inside of us we're going, well, that doesn't feel good.
Doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, why does it hurt so much? And this is what we need to recognize. When we feel those, it's because there's something that isn't resonating properly with us.
Yeah, all of these judgments, the judgments of good or bad, right and wrong, should or shouldn't, all these judgments we lay upon ourselves and we lay upon the world, and we wonder why it is that we don't have peace, why we don't have happiness, that even if we follow all the shoulds and shouldn'ts of everything we believe of how we should be,
based on what other people are saying,
that we find that we still don't have happiness, we still don't have joy. And many people, they pursue things like money or riches or fame, and
sleek bodies, nice clothes, a fast car, sleeping with lots of men or sleeping with lots of women.
I used to wonder why, particularly like musicians and actors and actresses, were very prone to drug overdoses and dying as a result, or suicides. It just seemed like there was an untimely demise to many famous people. And I couldn't understand how that could be, because it seemed like they had everything a person could want. All the joys and happiness that society taught was the pursuit of happiness. And what I've come to realize is that money is not happiness. Fame is not happiness.
Neither are material gains.
Neither is material gains. That it doesn't matter what we have on the outside, if we're not happy with ourselves on the inside, doesn't matter what we own or who's around us or how much money we have.
Exactly. We are valuing the valueless in those moments, folks. And it's learning to let go of that belief that there's value in the valueless. Moving on to the last paragraph, 7. After covering the list of as many hoped-for goals as possible for each unresolved situation that crosses your mind, say to yourself, I do not perceive my own best interests in this situation, and go on to the next one. So that was lesson 24. I do not perceive my own best interests. Do the lessons, folks. Doesn't matter if you believe them. It doesn't matter if you agree with them. Just do them. Everything will come through. Stop putting your beliefs of what is and isn't, that you know what's best, in front of you. Let go of all of that stuff. Just do the lessons as you're being asked to do them. Don't judge it. Just do it. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And I'm Alex Reyenga.
And that's Chance down there that was getting all goofy with the curtains.
Don't know if you can see him. It doesn't show up in the webcam. But we have Thor here.
Yeah. And all the other kitties seem to be other places right now. But have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us. Namaste.